Hey guys, it's Carrie, and I'm very, very excited to be painting with you today. And today's painting is this really, really cute chimp. So I have a 12 by 12 inch canvas, but don't feel like you are limited to that. If you have a bigger one, that's fine. If you have a different shape, that's totally fine. If you have a rectangle, feel free to adjust your composition, add more things. Yeah. But for us, we're gonna pretty much take up the whole canvas with the chimp. So get your egg carton or whatever you're using to pour paint in, and I gave myself some red, yellow, blue, white, and black. I personally didn't use any green in there. If you want to use green, feel free to use green or whatever colors you want. We're gonna be mixing all of these beautiful colors in there. We're gonna be mixing. So we're gonna start off by doing the flesh tone on the chimp. And we are going to start by taking your medium brush. So I didn't go over that. I typically, for these smaller canvases, I typically only use like one of these medium flathead paintbrushes and then a small round for the details. But, use what you want. It's totally about, feeling comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable with what I use, don't use them. So find some brushes that you like and use them. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take this flathead brush or whatever brush you want, and we're gonna do 3 scoops of white onto your plate. All right, so for flesh tone, I'm going to mix a brown color in a separate pile, and we're gonna kind of pull it into that white. So I hope you can see that here. So the base color for brown is orange. So let's do 3 scoops of yellow. And of course, I'm not washing my brush because I'm lazy, but if you feel like you need to wash your brush, wash your brush. Water likes to get stuck in this metal part, so just make sure that you dry it off really good. So for me not to wash my brush, instead of taking my dirty brush and dipping it into another color straight in the middle, I'm just gonna take it out of the edge. So the thing about orange is that red's gonna overpower the yellow, so you don't need nearly as much red as you do yellow. You're just gonna mix it all. Try to keep it into a little pile. I know sometimes it gets out of control. I even get like that, but just try to get the majority of it into a nice pile. So once you have a nice orange, you're gonna take some blue, not a lot, you can always add more, and you're gonna add blue into that. Okay, so what we're going for is like a muddy orange color. So, sorry if you can't see it. There you go. We have like a nice muddy color here. Then we're gonna add some black, just a little bit of black to that. And you should get a nice brown color. So if you get a green color, like baby poop, that means you have too much yellow and blue, because yellow and blue make green. So that just means you have to adjust it using red. So just add a little bit more red. And there's a lot of different browns in the world. And you can adjust your reds and your yellows to get it to a color that you like. So for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take whatever's left on your brush here and we're gonna just mix it into that white. Okay. Sorry if my plate keeps dropping. I'm actually gonna put my egg carton down so you can see. All right, so you just wanna mix it. So it's gonna get to be like this beigey color, and that's what we're going for. All right. And if you don't have the same beige as I do, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be this color. And if you're an experienced painter and you don't want to use my colors at all, you absolutely don't have to do that. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually draw out the chimp first. So I'm gonna put this really goopy paintbrush in my water. I'm gonna wash it off. I don't really like to paint with a goopy paintbrush unless I'm doing the background or something big. So you always want to wash your paintbrushes when you're done painting, or if it gets goopy, or you're going to another color that you can't, you have no choice but to mix, because you don't want to get that color into the other color. But especially when you're done painting, you want to make sure all your brushes are nice and clean. You don't want it sat in water, even though I'm guilty of doing that all the time. You really don't want it to be sat in the water. You really definitely don't want to put your dirty brushes out like this. They're going to be ruined. So if you want them to last, make sure to treat them nice. All right, so I'm going to switch to this smaller brush because I'm going to use it like a pencil. And this part is, you know, don't feel like you're committing to anything right now. We're just sketching. You could be loose. Don't worry if there's mistakes. It does not matter. We're going to adjust things as we go. This is the underpainting, what we're going to do first. So it's sort of like a big wash. We're just going to get something in here. So I want you to put an imaginary line down the center of this painting and across. So basically we're making just a simple grid. Okay, so I can see right now that the chimp's nose is the face is pretty much split right down. So that makes things easier. Now if we put an imaginary line across here, we can see that the nose is just about in the middle. The top of the nose is just about in the middle of your canvas. So let's just make a note of that. Somewhere around here, that's going to be the top of my nose. And you want to break everything down into a shape that's relatable to you. So when I see this, I see like a big M or like a seagull. So I'm going to just kind of make a big M, but see how I'm like very sketchy? See all that stuff in there? Don't worry about that. That's why we're using this light color. I would never have you sketch anything out in black because that's really not forgiving. This color, this is nice and forgiving. We can paint over it. So here, the cheeks, they're almost like, you know, round circles, okay? And you can see that this is on an angle, okay? The mouth is sort of on an angle. So we're gonna kind of just put something there, and then we have a big cheek here. And then you can see that if you put an imaginary ball over here, around circle, this one's a little bit bigger than this one. So we're just gonna kind of put that there. Again, don't worry about if it's exact. None of that matters right now. Okay, let me just get more paint. Okay, so getting something on here is the hardest part. Beginning a painting is the hardest part. Once you get going and you start seeing something, it gets easier. So up here we have like another M looking thing, or like one of those seagull looking things. So we're gonna come up here a bit and we're gonna do another M shape. Now, this gets a little confusing because you want this to be able to be seen. So if you want to put, you know, just something there so you know that that's where the headphones are going to be, big rainbow looking thing, you can. But while I'm actually saying that, I'm gonna show you a little secret too. So basically, I want you to relate everything, 'cause everything works together in a painting, not just the positive space, which is the gorilla, but also the negative space. So the negative space is everything else. So all of this turquoise is the negative space. So I want you to be aware of that just as much as you're aware of this shape, all the shapes that are going on in here. So that being said, I want you to kind of see where the end of this, you know, and I'm not a big math person. I eyeball everything. Just kind of see how far that comes out. And again, you can adjust that later. See where it comes out here, kind of all the way over here. You have the top of the head kind of here. Okay. So I'm doing this so I don't do a lot of work and then, you know, then I have to go back and change it later. So I can already see that I'm probably going to need a tiny bit more room for this space. Okay, so I'm going to make it go down a tiny bit. Okay, so now I have a better idea of where that's going to be. And I could probably like bring this one down a tiny bit. So I started a little bit too high. So that's what this is all about, adjusting things around. Okay, so this is like this nice M shape. And again, like I said, I don't expect everybody to have a perfect picture. We're adjusting things now to get, you know, we're adjusting our composition basically. All right, so another secret is when you have and I know you don't have the original with you, but for when you're doing things, maybe when you do have an original with you or something printed out, I like to measure angles using my paintbrush. So if I'm going like this, then I know that it's like, you know, you get the angles better. So that's a little tool that's fun. All right. So I see this big, nice swoosh over here where this is the side here and it's swooshing. And this is the bottom of the mouth, the chin. It's kind of swooshing over to this way. And don't worry, it's not supposed to look like anything just yet. This one takes a lot of building up, so be patient. All right, so now we're doing the hands. So try not to like think about the fact that we're about to do hands. I want you to try to feel like you're just doing shapes. Okay, so this almost looks like a triangle. So I'm just gonna have you do a triangle that goes like that, and we'll smooth it out later, okay? And then we'll have the fingers come this way. And then you have your other fingers that are like a triangle. And I think I might be going out a little too far. I think my fingers are going to end here. So, yeah. Then you have these and these. All right. So again, I definitely don't want you to get into any detail because you're most likely going to change stuff up later. And also, if you have never painted with me, you'll see that my original, never looks like the one I'm copying. Like these two are going to look different because that's just the way it goes. That's why original artwork's so valuable, is because there's only one of them. All right. So right now this looks like a bunch of crazy shapes. Okay. So then you have the top of the head. Let me get that back in there. And then you have the headphones. But here's where I want you to... So the thing about chimps is they kind of have like, there's no neck really. So I really want you to get that feeling of that in here. So I want you to kind of move over the mouth, and you can see that the shoulder is a bit higher than that. And here's where I want you to look at the negative space. Okay, so you have this shoulder, right? And now I want you to try to look at the blue as much as the black, okay? So I'm just and again, this doesn't mean it has to stay like this at all. I just want you to put something in here. It's all going to be adjustable later. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here. Now this one, if this is halfway up here, it's a little bit lower than that. So if this is halfway, it's a little bit lower. Again, I want you to look at the negative space. Get that headphone in there. And obviously, everybody's is going to need a bit of adjusting later. Okay, and we'll just kind of, all this will be dry by the time we get to that. All right, so I'm gonna have you put that brush into the water, and what I want you to do now is we're gonna just take this color and we're gonna paint in everywhere where the eyes are. We'll start with that. Okay, and it doesn't have to be, I'm gonna have you feathering a lot later, so don't worry about it being perfect outer edges and things like that. Okay. All I want is some very thin paint, and don't worry about it being transparent. I just want it nice and thin. And even when you come out here, you could start feeling like it's going to be, sorry about the shaking canvas. We're going to be dry brushing the hair, and we're going to go out and then in with the black, out with the tan, in with the black. So layers that way too. So you can start doing that. I'm not concentrating on making this perfect right now. I'm just concentrating on filling it in. Okay, so what I want you to do here is I just want you to kind of leave a little bit of white so you can see up here kind of where your nose is going to be, so you don't lose it completely. A little bit of white. We'll fill that all in later, but you'll see why we need that later. I know a lot of times when I paint with people for the first time, they get very frustrated if it doesn't look like something recognizable right away. And sometimes with some paintings it does, sometimes it doesn't. But these take time, you know? So painting is one of those things you really gotta be patient. And you're gonna do the same thing. And now anywhere where it kind of attaches or it's touching another shape, just leave a tiny bit of white. Same thing under here. And it's all gonna be filled in later. Don't worry about it. It's almost like puzzle pieces. Just leave a little bit of white so you can see where that shape is. Even if it's not, you don't want it to be there and you want it to be different later, don't worry about that, because we can still change it a lot. We are going to change this a lot. And if you want, you can start making that hairy down there, whatever. And we're going to do the same thing with these fingers. Just fill them in. And then when I get to here, I'm just going to kind of make some brush strokes that way. Same thing over here. If you can, leave a little bit of white in between. Do the same thing, and over here. So keeping it really simple. Okay? Keep that really simple. Same thing with this thumb. This thumb over here. Keep it simple. I don't want any hard edges. I just want you to kind of make it nice and soft. Okay. Then just go over, make sure you have no big piles anywhere. All right. Okay, so now what I want you to do is we are going to mix our background color, because we're going to let this dry. And I have turquoise, which is, I used blue, 3 scoops of blue, 1 scoop of yellow, and I'm going to start with 3 scoops of white and see where that gets me. If you don't want to do turquoise, you absolutely do not have to do turquoise. I chose to do turquoise. And I did tone down my turquoise a little bit with some black. I just added a tiny bit just to tone it down a bit. Just mess around until you get what you like. There's a million different turquoises in the world. So it's not about mixing until you get my color. It's about mixing until you get a color that you love. And everybody's different, so. All right, just mix, mix, mix. And feel free to put on music. I mean, I know I don't have to tell you that, but I don't listen to music here. So, I mean, I do when I'm painting on my own, but when I'm filming these, I don't, because I don't want to interfere with any kind of music that you have. All right, so for this, what we're going to do, actually, this might not make sense to you at all, but we are actually going to cover up that top headphone, and I only had you do the headphone, the top of that, so you can kind of gauge where the top of your head goes. So what I want you to do is, we're still going to keep these guys here. But we're just going to thinly put this background paint. So what we're going to do is we're going to work on, we're going to work on one section while the other section dries, and we're going to hop back and forth. Now, the reason why I'm having you cover that headband thing, the top of the headphones, is because I want you to, we're going to do that last with the black, and it's better not to paint around that. It's just a lot easier not to paint around. You could still adjust everything else. We're just going to get this first layer of the background in. we're gonna do a lot of overlapping. So don't worry if, you're like, I want to make the head bigger or the headphones bigger. We can do all that later. We just want to get rid of all the white of the canvas. So don't forget to do the edges if you want to. If you don't want to do the edges, you don't have to do the edges. Totally up to you. I like doing the edges because it looks neater when you put it on the wall. I know this painting might be a little bit more complicated for some people, but maybe not for others. So it's not as straightforward as a landscape, but this is a lot going on. So I want you to wash that brush when you're done. Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go around and we're gonna do a second coat of that flesh tone. And this should really cover everything. And if you ran out, just make more. Not a big deal. So every time we kind of go around and add more, you're gonna slowly see the chimp coming out. Okay. And I know it's hard. I know it's, it can get stressful, but I don't want you to feel stressed at all. If you feel stressed, go take a breather, come back. Pause it if you need to. If I'm going too fast, you can pause me anytime. If you want to just look at that and do it on your own, you can do too. If you don't like the way I do it, totally up to you. Right, so I'm keeping some of those little white spots in between, just so I can see it later. All right, so you should still have your brown, right? So I'm pretty much almost out of this flesh color, and we will need some. I do want to make more, and I don't want to feel like I am like scraping at my plate, thinking like somehow it's gonna miraculously show up. But I'm gonna do the same thing. I put 3 scoops of white in there, and I just took it from my pile of brown. Let's just try to get it around the same color. It doesn't even have to be the same at all. All right, so I got something. So what I'm gonna do now is I actually want, I want this color, but a darker version. So I'm gonna put 3 more scoops of white. And then I'm just gonna add a little bit more brown than I did to that first pile. So I want a darker version of that. So all you're doing is adding more brown. And here's where we're gonna kind of pull apart the monkey's face. That sounds horrible. We're gonna pull all the parts where we kept white. We're gonna get rid of those just by putting a little bit of a shadowy color. All right, let's see if this should do it. Maybe have a little bit more. All right, so I have a very, very goopy brush right now. So I'm gonna wash it. Just try to get as much paint off as I can. Wash it off. Dry it off. So a lot of this painting is dry brushing as we get into it. So there's dry brushing out here. There's a lot of dry brushing in here. there's a lot of overlapping, so we're going to be putting black on here, and we are going to be, it's going to look very bold at first, but then as we overlap again with the flesh tone, it softens it up. So don't be scared if we are like putting bold black on things and you're like, whoa, because we are going to soften it up. All right, so we're going to have that, take that clean middle brush again, and we're going to take this darker color and we are going to just separate this guy. I want you to, and again, don't worry if it's not exactly the way you want it. So we're gonna get that in there. But if at any point you want to use a different brush than what I'm using, definitely do it. So I can see already that mine looks a lot different than that, and that's okay. And you'll see why later. Okay, I just want to get something in there. I want you to go up like this. I want you to start visualizing where that eye is going to go. See this nice arch here? Just visualize it. This doesn't have to be all smooth. I mean, he's gonna have tons of wrinkles and stuff, so don't worry about it. Just get it in there. Start kind of, as you paint, start visualizing that face in there. All right, so now we're gonna use this actually to make shadows. So we're gonna take this, and there's gonna be a shadow here. We're gonna use black later, but for now, we'll use this. It's a little less scary. So we're doing a lot of practicing now before we add crazy black. But I want you to keep it nice and loose. Okay. So here's where we're going to start doing our dry brushing. So I just want you to kind of feather it up a little bit into that color that you had, that original color. Just going to feather it on up. Same thing over here. We'll just kind of have fun and put some of this down here. Still, it's not supposed to look like anything, don't worry. So we pull these guys apart here. And then you're just gonna feather it into that color. Feather it into that lighter color. Okay. Feather it in, feather it in. It's more, I see some holes left in my canvas. All right. So, I still want it to be very, very sketchy. I love this painting because it's very painterly. You can see like brush strokes and things. I love it. All right, so this is a nice underpainting for our chimpanzee. But as you can see, this is much, much darker than that. And that's because we're gonna use these colors as our shadow colors. We're gonna actually build on this with lighter colors. But before we do that, we are gonna start to put some black in, okay? So don't be scared. We're pretty much just gonna go straight on in. So I like to put some black on my plate. I never like to take it out of there and put it straight on there just because it's goopy. So what I want you to do first is, and well, before I start, I want to say, because we're using black, we have to be very careful with the other colors that we're using. So there will be some drying time. So we're gonna just kind of go in here. I'm gonna do the outside first because we are gonna put our second coat of the background. And again, there's never a point where you can't go back and add more background color or add more black. You know, we're gonna adjust things as we go. come in there. And again, it's going to be very transparent, so don't worry about it. I don't, you know, like there's going to be streakiness to it. And okay. I'm just going to go straight across here, and I'll do the details later. Okay, so, and that's another thing too. If you take this and go straight across, okay, you can see where this headphone, this corner here, lines up with that. So that helps. And you use different areas to measure out. Do that. We're going to do lots of layers, so don't worry about if you see some holes or things like that in your that you need to fill in. So now that I did that, I feel like, you know, it'll be dry enough by the time the background is my first layer is dry. This black should be on its way. As long as it's not goopy, then it should be dry. So if you see any puddles, just smooth them out. That's why acrylic paint is very, very forgiving. So you can literally go back on top of it, and you can do layers of different colors. It's quite fun. All right. All right, so now I'm gonna come down here. The whole point of this is to get rid of all the black, okay? I wanna get rid of all the black. I'm sorry, white. You're probably like, what? Get rid of all the black. Get rid of all the white. I get in the zone when I paint, and I think it's the biggest thing with these online videos is because I sometimes forget that the camera's on too. So I have to remind myself to talk. So the reason why we get rid of all the white of the canvas is because it's really hard to gauge colors when it's next to like this bright white. So I like to get rid of all the white. So we start getting to this part where I don't want a hard edge. I'm gonna have you start going in like this, like as if you're making little hairs but in reverse. So up here, you're gonna have this kind of big M shape. And again, these are all gonna be adjusted later. Don't worry if it's not the exact shape you want it yet. See how sloppy I'm being here? That's because I'm gonna go back later and do a whole lot of dry brushing. So there's gonna be a lot of layers on here. Okay, fill that all in. And so instead of a straight line over here, just want to make some fuzzies. I like to use my paintbrush horizontally, and you can get it flat by just going like this, and then you can use it this way. And still, you want to keep it nice and thin. And don't worry if you go in too much. We're gonna come back and go in reverse. So I just want to make it nice and soft. Even this finger, I'm like, it's not the shape it's going to be yet, but I'm going to adjust it later. These the headphones aren't going to be what I want them to be yet. I'm going to adjust that later. When you come down here, when you get to the finger, I just want you to kind of do one of these. And again, we're going to go in reverse with those other colors. So don't worry. I know it's hard because it looks so kind of sloppy for a while. And with this, you can go in reverse with the hairs. You can start doing that. This brush is great for doing hair. Just keep it nice, simple. That's where the whole kiss comes from. Keep it simple. Silly. Used to be something else when I was little. But the whole point is don't overthink it. Keep it nice and simple. And when you get to points where there's a hard edge, just soften it like this. So dry brushing is when you don't have a lot of paint on your brush. And when you come to here, do the same thing. Kind of look at the black, the negative space as much as the positive space, okay? So I want you to, look at the roundness of this finger. I want you to, when you get to over here, you're gonna do the same thing too. You're gonna fill that all in. And when you get to here, you're just gonna dry brush it in. Oop. Come down here. And again, you can see this shape is not like that shape. I will fix it all later by overlapping colors. So you're gonna fill all of the rest of the white in. And of course, if you feel like your leverage is off, I want you to move your canvas. I'm gonna show you in a second. So I feel funny trying to get into like here. You can flip your canvas over to help you get inside there. Sorry about that. And now you can kind of see the monkey coming out. Now's the time to do the bottom if you want to do the bottom. Obviously, nobody's going to see the bottom, but definitely the sides, though, if you want. All right. All right, cool. So that's good enough for now. Now wash your brush off. And because we're using black, just make sure that you dry it off really good. So we are going to come back with that original light color, okay? And I want you to just start kind of adjusting things. A little bit on the bottom here. I'm going to adjust my snout thing, whatever the heck you call it. Here's what's fun. So when we're going to go in the opposite direction of just making a little bit of very light whiskers. You're going to dry brush back into that. See how we made that shadow? I don't want you to cover it, but you're going to dry brush and merge. Okay. Same thing over here. And we're going to try to start doing a little bit of those whisker things just for practice. You want to just merge that shadow. If you want to re-wet the shadow, you can do that. Help you re-wet it with a darker color, you can do that. And then have them blend a little bit easier. Okay. And then you're gonna do the bottom again. Okay. Just kind of keeping it nice and light, and I want you to start going in the opposite, just for practice, in the opposite direction with these guys here. So you can see already how we're overlapping. It's going to be a lot of overlapping. Okay. All right. So the thing about the finger is that this part is kind of going back in space, so it's going to be a tiny bit darker. So what we're going to do is we're going to take just this lighter color and go right down the middle. I just want you to kind of soften the edges. And when you get to here, I like to flatten my brush again, and I like to just kind of make little wrinkles in the fingers. Same thing down here. You're just gonna do that. Then I like to dry brush going this way. Very simple, okay? Same thing here. Think about it, the dark edge is gonna be in the middle. So we're gonna put this down the middle, and I like to soften it by going that way. Then I like to make the wrinkles on the, when you bend your finger, those knuckle wrinkles, and then we're gonna kind of overlap by dry brushing some of this up down here. Just keep it very simple. We've got a lot of work to do with this as far as overlapping and things. Do the same thing with these guys. And then, I know it's hard for the bottom. You're gonna do the same thing with softening it with that. So when you get over here, you're gonna do the same thing. I like to overlap the black. I just like to overlap and overlap. And then I am going to dry brush into the black. But yes, really keep it simple. All right. So every time we go, we get kind of deeper and deeper into it, which is fun. Okay. And there's always plenty of time to adjust things and whatever, so don't worry about that. What we're going to do now is we are actually going to put some black in the eyes, and of course we are going to have to adjust them later, so don't worry if, if it's you do something and you're like, oh my god, I ruined it. There's no ruining it. I forgot to do the knuckle down here, sorry. Whoop. There's no way you could ruin this. Literally, like, I've done painting over painting over painting over painting, and as long as you let it dry, then you should be good. All right, so we're gonna make some bold brush strokes right now. So let's start easy. Let's do this. So this is a nice fluid motion right here, and I'm gonna use, I don't know if my paint's, it's pretty dry up here, so I'm gonna use my pinky as an anchor, and I'm just gonna make this, I want to make this nice line there. I'm just gonna start with the hands just because it gets us kind of getting into it instead of the face. So let's just start easy here, and we're gonna do the same thing over here. So we're gonna kind of make some fingers. So we're gonna soften these up later. And we're going to do some finger lines here. And then we're going to do, see, I was a little bit off with my fingers, so I'm going to adjust them now. Finger line here. And then you have your last finger there, okay? Now, I don't like the hard edges like this, but that's okay because they're going to be gone later. But for now, they're in there. Then we have the mouth. So the ways to get the tip sharp is either just to turn it like this, or you can kind of flatten it like we did the other one. And that's what I like. So I want you to put your first line going across. Okay, now we're gonna adjust all these, don't worry about it. And the reason why I had you put that there now is because the bottom lip has a little bit of a, if you squint your eyes, it helps you see the lights and darks. So it's got some hairs over here. And again, it's gonna look super bold because it's not softened yet. So just put some black there. Okay. And then you don't have to put the nose or anything yet. So what we're gonna do up here is we're just gonna let's do the tippity top up here. Maybe make the line come down for now. And you know this peak meets up with that line. So make sure your peak and that line meet up, okay? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take this brush and we're just going to make a couple brush strokes going up. Okay, let's start just easy. This almost looks like a Y with some dry brushing. So the thing about monkeys or chimps, or really any monkey, primate, I guess, is that the eyes are very close. So that's a very important thing. And I might not get this on the first try because the original I had to adjust a little bit. So I'm gonna have you go into this top first and just make some dark lines. See how mine are so sketchy? That's what I like. Okay, so don't worry. We're gonna go back over it later. Don't worry about the sketchiness. Don't worry about it looking like it's too bold because we're gonna go back. So what I want now is I want you to look how close the eye is to this top of the nose. Okay, I want you to see how close those two eyes are. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a little line at the top of each peak. Okay, and we're gonna go around like this and down. Okay, around like this and down. Okay, everybody all right? I always say that like you're gonna answer me. So we're gonna make this a little bit bolder. Okay, let's do that. All right. Now, what I want you to do is, I like to turn my painting upside down, and I'm just gonna kind of make some dry brushing marks going up like this. So you don't need a lot of paint on your brush. I just want it coming up. Same thing over here. Marks coming up. All right. Make them a little bit darker. You can do that. All right. No, it looks super weird, but trust me on this. All right, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take this line and we're going to make a line across like this. Just like nice and light, gonna go very slow. Okay, again, we're kind of drawing with our paintbrush. Now it looks like a very cartoony monkey, but we're going to turn it into a much more realistic monkey. Okay, then we're going to make the eyes. So we're just going to kind of go in. And I really want you to take the time because we're actually waiting on the other parts to dry. And, you know, we can adjust these shapes later. We just want something to go in there. And you can make the wrinkles kind of coming out. The first stages of the wrinkles. Do the same thing over here. Okay, looks, we're getting there. Do this first stages of these wrinkles. Okay. Now it looks really goofy, huh? Let's get some wrinkles going on down, some bags under the eyes, just to kind of bring it all together. All right, cool, cool. All right, so if you want to at this time make these nostrils, you can. And again, you might put them in the wrong place at first, or I did that when I was doing my original. I placed them down and I was like, they were in the wrong spot. They just looked weird. So I had to wait till it dried, paint over it, and then I tried it again and it worked. So if that happens, you can just kind of go right over it. But really, I mean, it doesn't really have to be exactly in the same place. So don't worry about that so much. So by this time, the background should be dry. Your black should be dry. So we're going to take that middle paintbrush, make sure it's clean and dry. Dry especially. Then you're going to just do another coat of the background color. And here's where I like to kind of overlap some colors. Here's the time where you can adjust some stuff. And later on, we're going to have some fun with this blue and putting some accents on here. So it looks very different when you put the second coat. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with using really thick paint. But it's just when you're teaching in a certain amount of time, just easier to use the thin coats. And again, still don't worry about the shape of the head. We're going to go back at the very end and kind of shape everything out and adjust things. And also, when you look at things from a different perspective, like upside down, you can a lot of times see where you made you have to make some alterations. Don't forget the edges, if you're doing the edges. So with all our paintings, you can really use any paint. I mean, oil paint would be different because it takes a lot longer to dry. Watercolor paint would be a lot different because it dries, very, very quick, and it's just a totally different medium. But if you're used to, a certain kind of paint, you can totally do these using your kind of paint. So get that all in there. All right. Wash your brush. All right. So now we're going to go back to that original light color that we used down here. And we're going to actually go on top of that darker color. So we're going to take this color, and so this up here should be this darker color. So now we're going to do some dry brushing on top of it with the lighter color. So we're gonna go back into that lighter color. And we're gonna actually start by kind of overlapping some of this black that we did. And we're also gonna come out with the hair on here. Just soften the edges up. That's what this is all about, the softening. And what we're gonna do we're gonna use this brush and actually go this way, okay? We're actually gonna soften it up this way. So we're gonna drag it into the black. Don't worry if the black is still wet, and it's totally fine. We're gonna do the same thing over here. And I'm gonna adjust these guys up here too. Whatever needs to be adjusted, you could use it using this lighter color. We're still gonna do more layers up here, so don't worry about, if it's coming through, if it still doesn't look, soft enough. We're gonna come with the black and then another layer going in. So we still got some work, so we're just gonna think about it this way. Every round we do, it's gonna look more and more like your chimp. So I want you to start thinking wrinkles, okay? And in here, well, let's continue on the outside. I just wanted you to soften everything up, soften the black over here. I want you to start doing the hair out this way. Think wrinkles. I like to soften it like up here. I don't like straight edges. I like to just kind of get some of that flesh tone in the black. We're even going to put some purples in there and stuff, so that's going to be super fun. And I want you to take this lighter color, and now I want you to start kind of putting it on top of some of this black here. Softening that up. You don't have to cover all the black, just soften some up. Soften it up. Right. You can even soften this black line with some of that lighter color. So you soften everything. All right. Cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come across here with our brush going this way, dry brushing, and we're going to soften all the inside of this using these brush strokes this way. Okay, we're getting there. We are getting there. I want you to actually put this brush, you could just lay it there for a second. Let's take your small brush. So we're actually going to soften up the eyelids. So I want you to, using the lighter flesh tone. Okay, so we're going to just go back in there, soften it. So you can overlap some of that black, and shape them up a little bit. I like to go under the eye. I like to soften it against the black a little bit. Same thing over here. Soften, go in the eyelid. Soften it up. Anywhere you see. Okay. All right, looks good. So now what we're gonna do is let's get let's get some highlights. Since we have this brush out, I want you to grab some white and I want you to put it sort of next to this color, and we're gonna actually just kind of mix a little bit of that color into the white. So we basically want the lightest of the light flesh tones now, okay? So we want it noticeably lighter. And now we're just gonna we're gonna make some highlights. I'm gonna go in between here. See how I'm dry brushing that? Up here, I want you to kind of make some highlights. You don't have to go, you know, I like to make just lines like that. You can, if you want to put some in here, put some in here, put some down here. I want to put some on this side. Really, all you're doing is kind of dabbing it along. Just have fun with it. We're gonna put some on this lip on the bottom. Of course, we're gonna come back and put some in here. And we're gonna, every time we go lighter, we're gonna always put some in this hand. We're gonna do the same exact things. We're gonna kind of, the highlight would be like right down the middle of each finger. Right down the middle. And now you could use this if you want to soften some of this black down here too. All right, cool. And we're gonna go another step, you know, further into that too. But for now, let's get some purple action going. So can you just switch plates? And we're gonna mix some purple. So there's lots of different purples. There's reddish purple, bluish purple. Again, this is about mixing a color that you like. It all works with this, it doesn't matter. So when you mix red and blue to make purple, see how dark that is? Obviously, we're gonna be making it a lot lighter. So add some white to that. Okay. And I kind of put some black in there just to neutralize it a tiny bit. All right. Get a little lighter. So I'm definitely gonna wash my brush after this because it's super goopy. So at this point, use whatever brush feels good. You can use the small one. I like the middle one just because I like the shapes it makes. So we're gonna dip our brush in there and we're gonna dry brush. So we're not gonna use a whole lot of paint. You know, I'm gonna put some accents in here. First we're gonna do some up here. We have some over here. And again, we're gonna go back over with our flesh tone, so don't worry. Everything's gonna be softened up. I have some up here. Don't feel like you have to do it in the exact same spots as I'm doing it. I mean, if you want to, that's cool, but don't feel like you're, you know, limited to that or whatever. So put all that in just to have a little bit of fun. I put some in here. I know it seems like it's overpowering everything now, but later on it will, we're gonna make it kind of all soften up. Don't worry about putting it in the black yet because we're going to do another coat. So for here, I did, and this is where I like this, I love this brush because I love the way it dry brushes. And all right. I think that's it for now. Yep. Okay. So we're going to go back to this darker color here, and we're actually going to add, I like to just go into like a section of it like this. I'm going to just add some black, okay? So we get like this darker color. But I still have the other one. I still have my original color if I need it. So we're gonna put some of this darker color over here where the finger's bending. And put it here where the finger's bending. Let's put some in here. I'll put some in between here. Here's where you can really soften it up too. Some here. You might think I'm being very sloppy, I don't know, but that's how I paint. We're gonna put some more of this in here. And again, we're gonna be softening this up. So I'm gonna put some of this up here. Almost like you're making eyeshadow. Okay, I'm gonna soften, do some on this side. So this is a lot of layering with this one. I'm gonna do some on this side. Very small amount over here and over here. Okay, and just try to dry brush it in. And don't worry, we're going back with all the other colors too. This is just for now. I think that's pretty much it. And put some down here. Think about where the shadows would be, anywhere where two places are touching each other. Okay. But see how I'll do like one thing, then I'll overlap with the other thing, then I'll go back and overlap, and I'll go back and overlap. So they're like combs, and and when you keep overlapping, they start merging and working together. So now you're going to go back to your original. Is that my original? No, this is my original. The original color, and then we're just going to merge them. See how this works? So I'm in my original color now. I'm just going to kind of soften this up. Soften this up. Same thing over here. You can soften that up. Put dry brush a tiny bit over those purples, so they're not so overpowering. So you're dry brushing that original light color right on top of what we just did. Okay, same thing over here. Same thing over here. I'm going right back on top. So it's not totally overpowering. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. And when you come up here, we'll do the same thing. We're gonna kind of go back into here. Doesn't mean we have to cover everything. We still want some stuff showing, but we're gonna soften it up. Same thing that we did originally. We come down here. Same thing over here. We go this way. Then we're gonna come down here this way. Then we're going to soften it up over here. So all these colors are overlapping each other. They're all working together. All right. Let's see. Okay. I think it's time maybe to put a tiny bit more black around. So I'm gonna start by putting another little bit of black. We really want this to look like they're deep set eyes, so I'm gonna do that with that brush. Then I'm gonna take this medium one and I'm gonna pull it out like this. Pull it out. Okay. See. Now we're going to put some pure white in there. So I'm going to just put some pure white highlights here. Just keep it simple. Maybe put some here. But I definitely want you to put the eyelids just in the middle. Some up here. Some down here. Some over here. My white's turning blue, so hopefully I can figure that out. Okay, then some just by here. Now we're going to take this, I like to flatten mine like that. I like to go out like that. Same thing over here. And if it helps you out to start to put that little gleam in there, do that. Okay. And anywhere you want to kind of soften it up with the white, you can soften it up. If you feel like there's any spots that are a little too, I guess, dark or whatever, go ahead and go over those spots. All right, so I'm just going to put a little bit more black, just a touch in this part. I'm just going to kind of do that. I'm not going to go all the way to one side or the other. And then I'm just going to kind of go over the black a tiny bit over here. Okay. Because we're going to go all over right now with the black. So, yeah, let's do that. Let's get the monkeys to match. Okay, so we're going to go over everything again. And we're actually now going to put in the rest of our headphone thing. So put that in. So as you can see too, when I made this, my flesh tones are a little bit different than that, and it all works. So it doesn't have to be the same colors. I hardly ever mix exactly the same color. And the more you paint, the more you realize that, hey, I can, now that I know how to paint this, I can go off and do it my way. So the important thing is that you learn things, then once you learn them, you can go off and do your thing. And you will want to. I mean, I think there's just going to be a point where you want to kind of go off and, do your thing, and, you're probably sick of following other people. Do it, yourself. So I like to overlap a little bit here. That black. Sometimes I gotta lift that canvas up to get to the edge there. Sorry if I'm quiet with this one. I feel like I really have to concentrate when I do this one. So, all right. The important thing is you want to just keep everything nice and soft. So, I don't know if you can tell initially by looking at this painting, but there's light blue that I added in the background, so that adds a lot to it too. Okay, and then when you get to here, you're going to do the same thing that we've been doing. You're going to brush inward. Okay? So it's nice and soft. And don't be scared when we do that headphone. Like I said, there's, no way you can ruin it. Even if you feel like it was a disaster and we did it completely wrong, you could always wait till it dries and then paint blue over top of it and then go back over it and try it again. So here's where I was saying before that when you turn things upside down and look at them from a different perspective, you can see, a lot of where things are not even and stuff. Well, I have this, I'm going to do the bottom. I know it makes no sense, but it's like I know it's there. And we're almost done. Yay. Okay. Downfall of doing the bottom is that you get paint on the bottom. All right, so we're going to concentrate on doing the headphones because we need to let the rest of the stuff dry. And then that way, by the time we get back to it, it'll be dry enough to put all those accents. And I have a different color purple. We have some yellows in there. All right, here we go. So we have the biggest part of the headphones. This is what we have here, okay? So then what I want you to do is I want you to come out here, and we're going to put just one more kind of level to that. Okay. And of course, don't, it honestly, it doesn't have to be exactly like that at all. Then we have this thing coming out here, just a little nugget thing. If you want to use the small paintbrush, you can. I'm being incredibly lazy right now. And we're going to just do this side too. So we have this kind of little mound thing. Let's help attach it, the headphones, the headset. All right, so we have that. Okay, and then what I like to do is I like to just kind of, I have something like it's starting to turn. Okay. And then you have, I like to I kind of put a little doodaddy there and a little one there so I know where I was kind of going. And then I just went and I kind of twisted my brush as I went. I kind of twisted it like this. So I have something to build on, okay? And then once I can see something and it makes it easier, then I'm going to go in there and kind of shape it up a bit. And again, you know, turn it around to help your leverage. All right. So you can spend as much time as you want doing this part. Okay. It really does a lot to the whole thing. All right. So what we're going to do now is wash and dry that brush. And the middle, actually, let's do both. So what I want you to do is take that white and I want you to put on the bottom of the mouth. I just want you to kind of put some, not all the way across, just like in the middle part. Then I want you to do these little hairs here. Some little hairs there. And you guys have all these hairs here, you did. So I want you to adjust it, you know, everything. Use this time to kind of go around. We're actually biding our time because I want to wait for the black to dry. So I just want you to kind of go around and just adjust what you want, whatever you want. You look at it and you're like, oh, I want to go a little bit, you know, softer here, a little bolder there. Now's the time. If you want to add more purple, I think I might add a tad more purple to mine. So do that. Really, whatever, you know, you want to do, make it your own. Okay. I think I want to, let's see, I'm going to put a little bit more of a shadow. I'm going to put the shadow color. I'm going to put a little bit more of a shadowy color under here, soften this up a little bit. So this is, you can see that a lot of, you know, this one looks different than that one, which is good. That's what we want. I'm gonna soften these guys. And then just go around your last go around of wherever you think needs highlights, or, you know, softening with the with your flesh tones. I'm gonna put some more. I feel like I lost a little bit of flesh tone under here. I'm gonna go back and reverse. Let's use this one. Same thing over here. I feel like I lost it a bit. All right. So when the black outside looks pretty good, pretty dry, we are going to do all those beautiful colors in there. And then that's it. I feel like I want to put a little bit darker in here. But when I said in the beginning, you know, don't worry about getting everything perfect and everything super detailed. This is why. That detail comes at the end. Okay, when everything is all kind of together. And you want to kind of play around. That's a good time to do it. All right, so another thing is you don't have to, you know, all those accent colors that I did, you don't have to do the same exact ones. Okay, you can do completely different accent colors. I'm gonna do a different color purple, and I really feel like the yellow added a lot. Actually, that was Jenna's suggestion. She was like, I feel like it needs yellow, and it absolutely did. So I'm going to mix in a different color of purple. So one purple is more of a bluey purple, and one purple is more of a red purple. But both purples I added white too. And I added a tiny bit of black just to tone it down. All right, I'm really trying not to have to get more white paint. This is my very end of it. All right, and again, this doesn't, honestly, it doesn't matter what colors you use, because anything really works. So you're really just kind of putting accents down. Oops, that's way too much paint. So I put an accent down here, and this is like, all it is dry brushing. And dry brushing obviously is just, your paintbrush does not have a lot of paint on it, and it's kind of dry. So I'm just kind of, anywhere you see the purple. Let's see. I had some here. This is more of a bluey purple. So I'm going to kind of go make another purple. So a bluish purple is just purple with less red in it, more blue in it. But I like how different it looks than the other purple. So I'm gonna do I'll put another purple. All right. I know the colors aren't exactly the same, but that's okay. All right, then I did some gray. Now I'm really reaching because I have no paint left. Hopefully I'll have enough just to make this happen. All right, so I mixed just kind of dark gray. And then I kind of just went in there and I kind of just dry brushed some stuff here. I'm sorry, there's a glare, so I'm trying to see where I did it, and I think I did did some stuff there, did a little bit of there. I don't know if you guys can see it. All right. And then, of course, last but not least, we have some yellow. And I did mix a little bit of yellow with white, just to tone it down. I think I'd put a little bit of black in there too, just to tone it down. Not till it turns like a greeny color, just so it's kind of toned down. So yellow. I just did here. There. Like this little yellow here. I think there's like a tiny bit in there. Maybe like a touch in there. Yeah, and wherever else you want to put it is fine. All right, I hope that wasn't too confusing. Oh, I think I missed a little spot of yellow. I did. Hey, you can take this time to kind of go and mess around with, making things, adjusting things and stuff. You can do whatever, but that one was not an easy one. So if you completed it, I'm proud of you. And I hope you didn't get frustrated at all. And if you have any questions, feel free to, call me or text me or email me or Instagram me or Facebook me, whatever you want. All right. Thank you. Enjoy your day. Happy painting.